Hey y'all, this is Culture Soup, where tech, culture, and business collide. It's a podcast that spoons up everything hot from social media. I'm your host, L. Michelle Smith, and each episode we bring you some of the most notable and not yet notable thought leaders in tech, business, and culture. Welcome to part 2 of episode 167 of the Culture Soup. I Can Be Anything with Kim Nelson Ingram, children's author, and also the executive producer of the Ricky Smiley Morning Show. Our conversation continues, and this time it's all about radio. Let's get it. So let's get here to talk radio.
Wow. Well, I actually worked at the college radio station at Florida A&M University. As I mentioned, I was a broadcast journalism major, and we kind of did a little bit of everything. I interned at the television station because my interest initially, I went into broadcast news, but I also did, a couple of shifts on the radio station. So again, they taught us to really be well-versed and learn a little bit of how to do everything in front of the camera, behind the scenes, behind the mic, etc. So what had happened was I actually got a job offer to work at a TV news station as a reporter in, I believe it was West Virginia. And I was getting married at the time. And my husband was not going to be living in West Virginia. So I was, looking for a lot of different jobs. And the first job I got was in radio. And it was where my husband was going to be. So that's what I did initially. So I kind of did the radio and television news thing for a little while. And I became obsessed with the Tom Joyner Morning Show along the way. The radio station that I worked at, we were one of the affiliates. And with Tom coming to town for Sky shows, etc., I stalked him. No, not really. But we had the opportunity to meet and etc. And I was like, you know what, if there's ever an opportunity one day, here's my number, here's my resume, here's my headshot, whatever. Right. So we stayed in contact and, a few years passed and there was an opening. And I moved to Dallas. And I work with the Tom Joyner Morning Show. Yeah. After working in local radio, it didn't happen that quick. I'm sounding like a TikTok video. It wasn't that fast. But that's the Spark Notes version of it. I started working in local radio first and then moved on to network radio with Tom and spent the good beginning part of my career working with him.
Wow. Well, I mean, what a dream come true. You mentioned I would obsess over the Tom Joyner Morning Show. At our age group, and maybe even older, who didn't obsess about the Tom Joyner Morning Show. And in fact, I'm a huge fan of Tom's for a couple of different reasons. One, when he first started his show, the syndicated one. Now, I grew up in Dallas, so I listened to the Fly Jock going between Dallas and Chicago. I was aware about that. So it was a big freaking deal when he got the syndicated radio show. First of its kind for a Black personality at all in the United States of America. So it was huge. But I was working at the Channel 4 studios. It was Fox at the time. It's Fox now, but it used to be CBS. And they sent me to cover the opening of the Tom Joyner Morning Show. And guess who it was that I got to interview? Can you guess who I might have interviewed? It was Luther Vandross.
This was the very first. Yes. I was going to say, I remember Skinny Luther. Yes, I remember hearing those stories about that. That was the very first syndicated show. Syndicated show broadcast. One.
Yes, and I remember American Airlines had sent the two seats from first class to be the chair in his studio. And Tom was sitting there in between. He looked around and said, "Hey, how you doing?" And then before long, he was back on the air. But I got to spend time with Luther Vandross before he went in to be interviewed by Tom Joyner for the very first show. But I think the most amazing thing about that, the most amazing thing about that is that Tom didn't forget who I was, even brief meeting, because some years later, maybe 3 or 4 years later, it's more than 3 or 4 years. Gosh, it was probably about 7 or 8 years later, I got promoted to vice president before the age of 30 at Ketchum Public Relations. And I received a handwritten note from Tom Joyner. Congratulations. I could not believe it.
That's the kind of guy he is, though. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. You know, Tom believed and believes in super serving the African American community. Not only that, Black women have a special place in his heart. You know what I mean? As far as a core part of his staff were African American women. You know, of course, Sybil Wilkes by his side, along with Myra J. and Jetta. And so for the fact that he would notice you and then recognize you when you made such an accomplishment does not surprise me, because that's what he does. That's what he does. I mean, for all the women that live there, we basically live there because we were there all the time. But for all the women that work with Tom, I mean, they're long days. I still have long days. I mean, the show starts at 5 a.m. Central. That's the time we go on the air. But I mean, we start work way before that.
2, 3 o'clock? That early in the morning, it feels like you live on that show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the point I was making is he, remembered, Valentine's Day, all the women in the entire staff received flowers. On Mother's Day, all the mothers received flowers. I mean, he definitely treated the women that worked with him very special. And even those who were in his circle, he remembered you. So I'm not surprised. Not surprised about that.
That's amazing. Well, and to say goodbye to Tom and his show, and it made way for Ricky. Yeah. Now, before we get into talking about the Ricky Smiley Show, I got to ask you a question, because we just got the news that the Academy has banned Will Smith for 10 years from the Academies, and everybody has their opinion about it. Some people say it's too much. Some people say they're slapping anybody. But I wondered too, Ricky Smiley is a comedian, first of all, before he's even a radio personality. What were his thoughts about what went down between Will and Chris?
And I don't want to speak for Ricky, but I was there to hear his response. So I think his initial, like all of us, I believe, we've kind of, maybe our opinion has evolved as this kind of thing has played out. So originally, Ricky, being a comic, as you said, a stand-up comedian for all these years, and also being friends with Chris Rock, he felt a way about what happened from the standpoint of a comedian, because he's like, these are jokes. We're telling jokes. Like, is it to the point where we can tell a joke and we can get, assaulted? So he was pretty upset about it at first. Very, very upset about just how it all went down. As things have, progressed and more information has come out, I do think he thinks it's a little excessive now as far as the repercussions that Will is having to, experience. Not that it was right what he did, no one's excusing that, but it seems like a lot. Like, are they really making an example out of him? There's people that have done, a lot of people venture to say things that were far, far worse, who haven't had this same type of punishment. So, I mean, I don't know. I felt the worst for Will Packer, who produced I felt like that's what we should have been talking about that Monday morning. And I was kind of upset that we weren't, because he's my fellow FAMU Rattler. And, it was the first time that a Black man and his team and an all Black production team had put on the Academy Awards, and the attention got diverted to something that was so, controversial. But I think that I have been saying it was a series of unfortunate events, things that were going on with Will and Jada, things that were going on with Chris, and just a cacophony of bad timing. And so I think everyone would do things differently if we had to do over.
Yeah. I think one thing that people need to get used to and start to consider even more is that there could be several answers to one question, and they could all be right at the same time.
Absolutely.
And I think we get
Absolutely.
stuck in right or wrong answer. And the answer is no. One, because we don't have all the information, first of all. We may never
That's
know
right.
because we don't know these people. Ricky can say he knows Chris.
Exactly.
We can't say that, right? I don't know Will Smith. I don't know
Right,
Chris
right, right.
I don't know Jada. I've met her once. I
Mm-hmm.
could do it. So the
Right.
way we feel like we know these people and can just speak into their lives and what should happen and not happen, it's just amazing to me.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens. And Ricky speaks on this often as well. Just by virtue of being a celebrity, I put in air quotes because, they're regular people just like we are, but people that are in the public eye or people that we feel like we have this familiarity with them, but we really don't. Like we feel like we know Will and Jada and the type of couple they are. And so, but we don't, we know what they allow us to see. And so they're people, they have fights, I'm about to say something real. I don't know, but it came to my head. I was like, they have bowel movements like we all do. What is that? but I mean, they're regular people. Right. Stuff happens. And, I don't know. I've been up since 2:45, so hey.
I get it. Yeah.
With a bunch of comedians.
It's interesting. We don't know those people. Yes.
Yeah.
And
but
we can leave that.
We don't know what's going on with them at any given time.
Yeah. So what's it like working with Ricky Smiley on the Ricky Smiley Morning Show and your team?
Oh man, it's great. It's really never a dull moment. I lay out a show every day with this time we're doing this and this is what we're doing this break. And sometimes it happens and El Michelle's, most times it doesn't. But my job is to organize the chaos. And but it makes it fun. Like I couldn't work, I don't think, like in a bank or as an accountant when everything kind of is pretty much the same every day. I thrive on the excitement of, the fast-paced moving environment and something different happening every day. And it's a lot of fun. And we have a way of at least my goal, and I bring them along with me, is to make sure that we're informing as much as we're entertaining. So we might have a segment where we're talking about something that's, really, pretty serious, but then Ricky has a way of engineering the comedy and interweaving that in between to where you learn something and you maybe pondered something a little bit differently, but then you're going to leave going into the commercial break laughing like, no, he didn't. What did he just say? And what is about to happen next? So it's fun. It's fun. It's a lot of work. It really is, because in order to make it, flow smoothly and to enable the talent to have fun, there's a lot of work that goes on, behind the scenes, but it's a great time. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just blessed to be able to be part of it.
For those people who've never worked in radio, give us a little idea of what it's like. When you say, make sure the show is all together, what does that really take? I did radio, so I kind of have an idea, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, network radio or syndicated radio is kind of different than a local radio station per se, because we have, up to 90 some different radio stations across the country that are carrying the show. So there's certain breaks that we're supposed to hit on time so that the local radio stations can then give you, in our case, the news, the traffic, or whatever's going on in that specific city. And then there's a certain time window for that, and we have to be back to regular programming. So, of course, we're there like most media outlets. We're supposed to be selling commercials, right? Or playing commercials and keeping you entertained in the meantime and in between time. So we have certain things that we do every day, the features that everybody, knows and loves, Bernice Jenkins in the church announcements, or, Brat's Hotspot, or the news and entertainment information. So we're giving all that information, but it definitely does have to be organized and hit by a certain time so we can get those commercials in and keep you listening and have you come back. So that's part of what I and my team do every day, is figure out what guests, what topics we're going to talk about, how long we're going to dedicate to talking about those things, how much time I'm going to leave Ricky to take it a whole different direction and then come back around. So, that's, I guess, in a nutshell, what it is. It's really just like any other job. Well, not any other job. I take that back. But anything else where you have to plan or or project manage in a way. My job is to manage the project of the show every day and fit in everything that needs to be fit in while we're still having fun at the same time. So the having fun is what they concentrate on. And I'm back there like, we gotta go to break. We gotta go to break. I know it's funny, but shut up. No.
It sounds like you are the queen of the pivot.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be, especially with Ricky. I mean, Tom, I worked with Tom for a long time. They're definitely two very different personalities. And I've been able to work with a lot of different personalities over the years. I mean, I did pivot from radio for a little while and work in TV. And I was able to work with Monique with her radio show and her late night talk show. So as a producer, you got to learn your talent and you have to produce for the talent that you're working with. Yeah. So I produced differently for Ricky than I did for Monique, than I did for Tom. Tom was a radio guy, so I didn't have to worry about him hitting the break on time because whether it was hilarious or not, he was going to wrap that laugh up and we're going to get to break. Where Ricky, you know, the funniest first because he's a comic first and foremost. So making sure we laugh, make sure we, you know, go out on a laugh and a good one. He might be falling on the floor. And yeah, so definitely learning how to pivot is important and getting the team to do that as well. Like we have an excellent team. Ricky says it all the time. Like he inherited a couple of us that came over from Tom, but just the team that, you know, we were able to assemble that allows him to have fun, but allows us to get the business taken care of as well. It's a pretty special thing.
Wow. I have to ask you, Kim, how do you get all of what you do into 24 hours? Because you're a mom, you have your children's books, and I see there's some merchandise back there. Is that little Bobby? That
is little Bobby back there. Yes, one of my girlfriends actually surprised me with a life-size version of Bobby. Well, I guess she's bigger than life-size, but you know what I mean. A plush version of Bobby. And it's something that we're working on getting out because, it's been requested. But to answer your question, you know, literally, and this sounds, maybe it sounds cliche, I don't know, by the grace of God, for real. Because it's a lot. There's a lot of things on my to-do list. They don't always get all done every day, but the important stuff does. And I am pretty good at time management. I am pretty good at knowing how to weave things in and out and giving my attention where needed. Thankfully, my kids are to the point where they're grownish now, and you know, doesn't take as much time as they did. But I mean, navigating my career, they were small. There were times when, in fact, I have to share this as far as Tom in his Fly Jock days and how that influenced me in my career. As you mentioned, he flew back and forth between Dallas and Chicago. Well, there was a time where I was flying between Dallas and Atlanta, working on Monique's show. It was based in Atlanta. My kids were small. That was 10, 11 years ago now, amazingly. But I mean, so I had meal planners and schedules and, you know, cooking in advance and ziplocking and labeling and, you know, ironing clothes and cleaning house and just really, I'm an organized person by nature, I guess. So it makes it a lot easier to manage it all because I'm very much a planner and I'm very much organized. Otherwise, I would lose my mind. I'm still sometimes on the verge of losing my mind. But I get most of the important things done.
The coach in me has to ask you, how are you making sure that you're giving yourself permission to put yourself first in self-care?
You know what, El Michelle, I am learning that now as I've gotten a little wiser in my years to do that, because for the longest time, I think I did. And I think many, and I'm going to say women, are guilty of doing that so very often. But now, no, I do make sure that I schedule time. I even schedule naps, as crazy as that may sound. But as early as I get up, there's certain days, you know, once I hit like maybe a Wednesday, I've got to take a midweek nap or I'm not going to be able to make it through the rest of the week. I schedule workout time. I schedule when I'm going to take long baths, massages, all those types of things that I used to leave to the bottom of the to-do list. Now I kind of make sure I move them higher to the top, because the whole "you can't pour from an empty cup" is so true. And my day is a lot longer than most. I mean, like I said, my first alarm, I said about 3, but my first alarm goes off at 2:45, with a live broadcast starting at 5. Yes, it's over by 10 in the East, but then there's meetings and conference calls, and my day sometimes goes until 6, 7 o'clock in the evening. And then I do it all over again. So, I know everyone says you have the same amount of hours in every day, but you got to divide them up the way that suits you best. Right. And I have learned to, incorporate those self-care things in there when I can.
Well, I'm going to help you to get to some self-care a little earlier today by not keeping you on too much longer. I really have appreciated you, Kim. It's been wonderful talking to you. I'm excited about the book.
Oh, same here.
You know what? Tell everybody where they can find it, and then I'm going to prod a little bit more. You said there's a second book coming out. Did I catch that?
Well, absolutely. Yes. So you can get the book by going to my website, especially if you want a hardcover copy like this one. You can go to youcanbeanything.com. youcanbeanything.com, and you can order both paperback copies or hardcover copies there. I'm going to go ahead and activate a free shipping code for a limited time only, and that is Ship It to Me, and it's Ship It, the number 2, me. So Ship It to Me. That'll get you free shipping on your order. And of course, if you just, I'm an Amazon fan as well. You can go to Amazon. They have paperback copies, Target, Barnes & Noble, pretty much anywhere you can get paperback copies. So yeah. And as far as the second book, actually there's 3 total, including this one that I already must get done, because they kind of all came to me at the same time. They kind of have an underlying message of, some kind of law of attraction concepts, I'll say. Just, So the next one is dealing with gratitude, because it's a very important piece. We always talk about what we want, and what we want to do, and what we can be. But I have found, like I said, I'm getting into my wiser years, that a lot of the foundation of that needs to be gratitude. Grateful for where we are, grateful for what we have, grateful for what we have done and have experienced. And so that's the underlying message. Again, I'm not trying to preach or shove anything down anybody's throat. It's the underlying message. So that's the underlying message of the next book, which,
I'm so excited for you, and I'm so glad you're my friend. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, same. Thank you so much.
The Culture Soup Podcast. And we're on social media.
Yes,
where can people find you?
Pretty much Kim Nelson Ingram. Yeah, pretty much Kim Nelson Ingram on all platforms. I don't really tweet that much, but I'm pretty active on Instagram. It's Kim Nelson Ingram, and Facebook, Kim Nelson Ingram. And I've even dipped my toe into TikTok. So we'll see.
I'm on there. You got to.
I will definitely find you as soon as we log off. I have, I'm not as good with being, posting all the time, but when I do post, it's usually pretty good. If I do say so.
Good for you. You have a good one, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you. All right. Bye. What an absolute pleasure to have Kim Nelson Ingram on the show. Kim, thanks so much. And I hope you go out and get her book, You Can Be Anything. And that's by Kim Nelson Ingram. And of course, check out the Ricky Smiley Morning Show. Find us online at theculturesoup.com, on Instagram and Twitter at The Culture Soup, and on Facebook at The Culture Soup Podcast. Until next time.
The Culture Soup Podcast is a production of No Size Communication, LLC.
The Culture Soup Podcast is a registered trademark of No Silos Communications, LLC.